Howdy. All right. Welcome to another live stream. I pushed it up an hour today at the last minute just because I have a gig. I don't know why I put it on the 4th. At 4 o'clock. I should have put it at 3 o'clock on the calendar. I apologize for that if anybody saw that. As far as the future streams next week, I believe is going to be back to 4 o'clock. And I know that on the, yes, next week is going to be, actually next week I'm going to have to move the stream again back to a Sunday at 3 because I had a couple of scheduling conflicts. Yeah, this time of year, like I've said in the past, and this year too, summertime is just a busy time for gigs and events and that sort of thing. So everything kind of goes crazy and scheduling goes nuts. But anyway, like I had the new video came out, was it Thursday? I think I put that up there. So that was kind of just a quick video. It took me a little longer to get it out than I thought it was. I had it all basically recorded and edited and everything, but just getting to finally mixing it and getting it up there. But yeah, it was fun to make. That was just riffs and licks that you could use in rockabilly, swing, or whatever, anything that is that kind of tempo and that kind of feel. Of course, you can slow the tempos down or speed it up a little bit depending on what works. So I'm thinking about I'll do another one with, but a different feel, like something like a 2-beat maybe, some 2-beat riffs, and throw some other ideas out there. So if you're playing two, train beats, 2 beats, whatever you want to call them, instead of some of those licks, like this one, may not work if you're playing something like a country 2-beat. So you might want to do something more in the finger picking line, like or if you're playing in the 4, or in this case A, so you'd be up here on the D on the 4, or you can also play that here too. You go to the 5. That kind of stuff works on 2 beats. Of course, you can always play stuff like that. Here. Do anything like that. Like I said, going to keep this really short today. Head out to the gig here within probably about half hour or so. I see a lot of people have made some comments. I'll get back to everybody very shortly as soon as I have a minute to kind of sit down at the computer or on the phone and reply. But I thank everybody for watching and tuning into the live streams. Last week was really great. Once we get beyond this month, I'll be able to dedicate some more time to the channel overall with videos. I have a bunch of stuff planned. I just have to, and the scripts that I have are all written. I just have to get the time to be able to sit down and actually do it, which is coming very shortly. And I'll have more. I have a beginning guitar lesson series. It's going to start from the very beginning, from describing the guitar, how the notes on the neck, how to learn the notes on the neck, basic major scales, fingering position, all of that. And then we'll work our way up until I can't go any further, basically. And then we have the History of series. That's a work in progress. That's something that kind of keeps expanding as the video gets longer and more information. I learn more information about it. And it's kind of a creative thing that I'm going to give, try it out, give it a shot, see how people respond to something like that. And of course, the next video, as far as a tutorial video goes, is going to be Good Rockin' Tonight, which is, I have no idea when I'm going to have that out, but hopefully sooner than later. That'll be one of my main projects this week to start working on to get that one up. And it's a pretty straightforward rockabilly tune. Scotty Moore, Elvis again. That's the version we're going to obviously base that on. I said here in the channel, in the description, to talk about chord extensions and tritones. So with chord extensions, if you ever see you're reading a chart or you're just reading a piece of music or whatever, you see a chord, you see A9. I might have explained this before at some point, but I figure no harm in going over it again. The easiest way to figure it out, everybody, if you already know your basic bar chord forms, you already know your majors, your minors, your sevenths, major sevenths even, however you want to play it. If you see something more complicated than that, and you see a 9, or a 13, or an 11, or whatever, the quickest way to do that is to just, you should know your major scale, of course. You just count up the scale degrees. Now, some of you may know this, but may not. So if you need to know what a 13 is, you just count up 13 notes on the major scale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and you get to an F sharp. So if you're in A, the F sharp is the 13th scale degree. So you have to add that note to your chord. Now, typically with extensions, when you see 13, 9, stuff like that, you always have to play the flat 7. So if you're playing a 7, you're just adding that in. So otherwise, if you were to add the F sharp without the flat 7 and just play the triad, it would be considered an add extension. So you've seen that before, I'm sure, like add 9 or add 13. So you have an add 9 like this. That's an add 9. But if you add the flat 7, that's a 9. That becomes a 9. Another way to play it is here. Or here. Of course, here. So with extensions, you add that. Now, the other qualifier is major. So if you see capital M, lowercase a, lowercase j, that's major. Major 7. So if it says major 9, that means you're not playing the flat 7, you're adding in the major 7th. So you're that half step between the tonic, the 1, and the 7. So if you were to play A major 9, A, then you do something like that. So you're still playing the note right before, which is down here on the bass. The major 7th is down on the bass, and that. Well, that's a G major. Here. That's one way to play it. Play it that way. Right there. However you want to voice it, and you can mix up the notes and put the 9 on the top or the thing in the bottom, or however you want to voice it for guitar. The guitar is high enough register wise, you don't have to worry about something that's called low interval limits. Hey Richard, thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, smash the like button, like and subscribe. Cool. Yeah, so with that, you can what they call inversions. You can put the 9th on the top, put it on the bottom, put the major 7, and that will change the color of the chord a little bit, and it will change the sound. And it's up to you, really, whatever sounds good to your ear. Some chords sound great Some don't. Typically, when it comes to major sevenths, if you want to make sure they're an octave apart. That is the definition of a major seventh, is that it's up higher. It's on the top, or it could be on the bottom. It's fine, but it's got to be that distance between. You don't want a minor second interval, the two notes right together. Although you can do that, and in an ensemble setting, you can play that chord. I'll give you an example here of something it's really weird. Doesn't sound great. Not to me, anyway. Very dissonant. Not great, right? In an ensemble setting, though, it can work. If you're playing in a big band or a bunch of other instruments are playing with you, it can complement the rest of them. But you probably, if you're playing in a trio or by yourself, it's probably not the best chord choice, because technically those are minor second intervals, and that is not usually the greatest when played together. Although it can work, because that's in horror movies. That's the sound, that the minor second interval. That's what creates the tension. Howdy. So that's basically the easiest way to figure out chord extensions, is you play your scale notes, figure out where the note is. If it doesn't say major 7, then you make sure that you're playing the flat 7. If it says add 9, you're adding it to the triad, but you're not playing the major 7. It's got to have that major 7 qualifier there to play that. Otherwise, it's just the 1, 3, 5, add the extension. And without that add, and it's just the number, then you play the flat 7. So it's sort of, you just have to kind of know that in order to if you're reading a chord chart or something like that, and you have to play it. But if you're trying to figure out a chord and you don't happen to have an app, there is a great app on at least for the iPhone, called Guitar in Tune or something like that. Guitar Toolkit, I think, is what it's called. And there's probably a bunch of different apps out there where it'll show you the actual chord diagram and all the different inversions of that chord that you can play. And you can always look it up like that, because when you start getting into some charts, and even if you go onto Ultimate Guitar Online or whatever, they don't always have the chord tabbed out, the fingering position tabbed out, or the chord block isn't there. So it's good to be able to just kind of figure it out on your own if you see something odd and weird. And if you see something that says flat 5 or sharp 5, that just means take that interval, 3, 4, 5, and you just lower it or raise it. Then you add that in. So 5. It's usually better to play those extensions on the top strings. The higher the better, right? So that's a sharp 5. Very similar to an augmented chord. Same thing. That's an augmented 7. Can be spelled that way. It can be spelled like a sharp 5. And then usually with stuff like that, when you see sharp 5, you're raising that. You're not including the 5 as well. If you do, separate it by an octave. Those are just the little things to keep in mind. Tritones is the other thing I put in the description. The easiest way to figure that out is the way officially you count up 3 whole steps, not including the first note. So if you're G, 1 is here, not here. So 1, 2, 3. That is a D flat or a C sharp. So your tritone is C sharp. Now, if you were to count up from C sharp again, you'll end up back to G. So there really is only one you'll just keep going round and round and round. You'll go to G, D flat, C sharp, back to G, C flat, E flat, C sharp again, and so on and so forth. Right? And on the guitar, if you're looking at the neck, the easiest way to figure it out is do a power chord, take the fifth note, and slide it down, and there, now you know what your tritone is. That's the easiest way to figure it out shape-wise, as opposed to counting the notes. And then you have your tritone, and you can use that as a root to substitute a 5. So if you're playing something like this, throw that in there as a passing chord. That little B flat 9 thing. And it just adds a little bit of something, little more color if you get bored, kind of playing the same thing over and over again. That's what I find myself doing, just try to make it a little bit more interesting, even if it's just for myself. And again, use your ear, what sounds good. If it doesn't sound good, and you try different things when you play live, and sometimes it works great. You go, wow, that's great. I want to do that again. Try to remember what you did. And you can work on, and sometimes you even work on things. I'll work on things for several hours. And then all of a sudden, I'll try it live, and it didn't work. Yeah, well, but you try. That's what half the fun is. Same thing with lead playing, too. You try different lead ideas, and sometimes it'll fail spectacularly. But you just pick it back up. If I hit a bad scale or a bad mode or note or something like that, I'll just if it's rhythmic in some way, I'll try to keep that same rhythm going and play the right note and just repeat that rhythmic figure again, so it doesn't sound as much like a mistake. I forget who said it. Like, if you repeat the same thing 3 times, if you repeat the same mistake 3 times, it's no longer a mistake, or something to that effect. I think Zappa said that. I'm not sure. Anyway. I'll just go back to tried and true riffs, just like I showed in the video. Something happens, you start, what am I going to do? Oh, okay, I made a mistake here. I'll just go back to this again. Or this. That little bebop scale. Those 3 notes right in the middle, on the D string and the G string. Or this. That's always a fun riff. It just kind of keeps the song going, and it builds it up until you get going into the 4, or if you're on the 4 doing that, I guess. Whatever the rhythm of the song is you're playing. I'd say the rhythm that's the most important thing. The drummer and the bass player playing together, making sure they're working together, and then you playing and listening to them. Not so much the crazy notes and everything that you're playing, but having the rhythm tight is going to be it's going to translate far, far better to an audience than just playing a bunch of, crazy notes and things. So, anyway, let's see what we got on time here. Got a few more minutes here. I don't really have too much going on right now, other than that one video I just did. And I'll do one on some 2 beats, maybe some on some rumbas, the different rhythms and different feels that you'll run into playing roots music in general. Generally, if you're playing a gig with as a fill-in musician or a pickup musician, everything is gonna kind of be in the same relative genre or relative feel. There's going to be a couple of feels you're going to run into, and you're going to, especially in roots music in general, and the chord progressions are all going to be very similar. If there is something strange, whoever's leading the song will usually tell you, and it's just a matter of doing it and getting used to hearing the music as it's coming at you and being able to pick up on it and stops and stuff like that. That if there's a couple of stops at the beginning. A feel like that, kind of a rumba. And let's see what else we got today. Well, I hope everybody else is having a good Saturday, at the very least. And again, I want to thank everybody for liking and subscribing to the channel and watching the videos and all the comments I'm seeing. Again, I'll get back to everybody very shortly, hopefully tomorrow. I don't know if there's any. I can look and see if I've had any comments here that I can ask. The gig last week. I don't remember what I did last week. What did I do last week? Oh. Well, I played. Last week I had just come back from a gig, and that was pretty good. So I haven't had any gigs since then, but the gigs last week were crazy. I had a double on last Friday, and then I had a gig at, what was it, like 1 to 4 or something last week, which is why I had to move the stream down back to 6 o'clock. Today, I'm going back to Newport, Rhode Island to play at a place called Island Harbor, which is on Goat Island. It's pretty cool. It's just an outdoor venue, and so I'll be playing outside. It's a little humid and hot out today, but yeah. Next week we got I think 2 gigs. I'll be back at Island Harbor again, actually. I will have to move the stream either later, probably try to move it later, like around 6 o'clock next week, as opposed to trying to do it as a really short thing on Sunday. The height of the pickups on the 6120, you know what? I can tell you exactly what they are. Every guitar is a little different. My orange one is pretty low. I don't know exactly what it is, but I've tried many times to get them a little closer to the strings. I like them fairly close, not too much, because it basically, if like when I'm palm muting, if the string is in danger or you start hearing like a weird pop, it's probably because the string is touching the pole pieces. You want to try to avoid that, but of course you can just release your hand a little bit if you like that sound. So the way it's usually measured is you push all the strings down flat here, and then use a little ruler where they are. But if I take the strings off, because the string height, you never know, that will depend on what your string height is. That's why you push them down. So 2 30-seconds. For the low E string. For the high E string, it's like about the same, maybe 1.5, maybe a little bit lower. Yeah, the orange one, for whatever reason, the 6120, I've tried to raise those pickups to get them closer. I've even had people put blocks underneath to get those pickups up farther, get them up even higher, because even the adjustments, they're maxed out. And that's probably why the guitar doesn't have as high of an output. but they are different pickups as well. I believe the Black Phoenix is also very similar to this one. All the Fender Gretsch models are all pretty close, and I haven't really changed it. This is just stock. This is the way it came. So I leave it alone. Of course, you can adjust the individual pole pieces, but what I've discovered by doing that, it creates weird. It can create weird, depending on your amp, I guess, overtones and harmonics and unpleasant feedback, just a squeal. So this one feeds back well, like a pleasant feedback, just kind of vibrates and just resonates. Where the orange one will just kind of give me like a high pitch, like ugh. I think there's always been some kind of electronic issue with that guitar, and it could just be bad pickups as well. Who knows? Um, yeah. So that Gretsch I got down in Fort Lauderdale, um, 2000 in like 2001 or whatever, and it was always a problem guitar. It always had a lot of work that I had to do. Not as bad as my old Tennessean, but it had problems with the nut, it had problems with frets, it had problems with electronics, tuning, just all sorts, constantly tinkering. And but I did like the way it played, and I liked the way it sounded. You lost sound? Still working? Um, a decent volume on stage. You can hear me, right? You guys can still hear me, right? Um, I use not here. Let me see if I can pull up an image of it. I have what's called I have the piggyback, so that it's a separate head and combo. So what I do with it is I will use something called an attenuator, THD hot plate. I don't know if they still make them or not. I think they must, or at least they're still available. There it is. I'll bring up a photo of some eBay thing. This thing. It's this you have to look at the ohms and what your amp has. If you have a combo, what you can do, you can get individual things that plug into your loop pedal, and you can kind of use the master. It becomes another master switch, and you can get you can get your tone and turn it up, but it's not really you're not really getting that tube saturation. Um, yeah, I usually run the amp at around like 4.5, 5, and and then I'll run it through the attenuator. I'll put this on that that hot plate just kind of clicks up. When it's on the 16 dB cut, you have the right knob. Go back to that. The right knob here. Then you can kind of adjust it gradually. It's like a volume knob. But these, once you click it up to 12, which is usually where you're going to be if you're playing with a drummer, you wouldn't want to be too much lower than that unless you're playing a jazz gig or something. And so sometimes I'll go to 8 and keep it on that way. That's what I've been using for when I use my pedal board. It seems to work really well with that. When I use the Space Echo, the 301, that one, that thing I don't need the hot plate. It attenuates the whole thing well enough because it's got inputs and it's got output decibel cuts that you can just use built into that unit, so you don't have to use the hot plate. But it's without that hot plate, it becomes a little unwieldy, and you just can't. It's really difficult to control the volume, and the guitar can get really, really loud very quickly, especially with a Bassman. And they're not that powerful of amplifiers technically. I mean, they're 60-watt amps. I mean, it's not like a twin reverb or something that's 100-watt. Those are loud. But so with combo amps, you can separate the head from the amp, or the amp from the speaker cabinet. I had a Vox AC30 for a while that I wanted to use that hot plate with, but I couldn't. It was because it was just too loud. So I had somebody separate the head inside, and they just drilled in put a jack in the back of it, so I could go out from the cab and then back into the speaker. So the only downside with that is that you just have to have a cable now in the back to go from your head to your speaker if you don't want to use the attenuator. Not a big deal, not to me anyway. Especially with so many gigs, I like to play as much as I can, and if you're gonna play out, you're gonna have to play quiet. And that's one way you can keep your tone and play quiet, because there's nothing worse than having to play to an amplifier on 1 or 2 and get 0 sustain and 0 touch sensitivity, and everything's just dead. So, or you can get an amp that's separate, combo kind of thing. Although they're some of the new amps and things like that I've been playing through, some of the orange amplifiers are pretty good. You can get it pretty quiet with a decent level of distortion, but still nothing beats that old that old Fender Bassman. So. Of course, that's just a computer, but yeah, the in the videos, that's a Fender Bassman. I don't use any computer amp mods in any of the videos that I'm making. That's all it's reamped, but it's still the Bassman amplifier through usually the Mystery Brain, because it's just set up on my pedal board. So I use that and just reamp it with a little radial. It's like a radial DI, but it's a reamp box, and that's great for the studio because you can record your amplifier with a DI direct into the computer, and you can go a throughput from that DI right directly into your amplifier. And so you can, when you're recording, you can capture the performance and capture the amp sound while you're recording, but you also have your direct guitar as well. So if you're going back and you're mixing and go, that amp didn't quite have the push that I wanted, or it didn't have the right delay setting and something's off, you're not stuck. You can take that direct signal that you've recorded and go back and reamp your amplifier again and tweak the amp and get a little bit better sound. So definitely something I do these days. And if you're recording guitars on a computer in general, it's always good. Some interfaces are pretty good. I've never done it with this interface. So I just have one of those Focusrite interfaces for the computer, and they do pretty well. But the DI, the radial DI, you want to go through, it doesn't have to be radial, but some kind of a DI, even if you're just recording into an amp modeler in the computer. I've noticed if without it, it doesn't balance the sound, and you can get weird distortion and digital breakup, even if you're not clipping. It'll still, and then there's nothing you can do about it. You'd have to go back and redo the track. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody again for, thank you guys for coming on the stream here at the last minute. I know the last minute changes all over the place. So, it's been a crazy month and a crazy year too. So, but thank you guys so much for supporting the channel, liking, subscribing, watching the videos, just anything you can, all that engagement just helps the channel. And thank you guys again for all of that. And I will be back next week and be working on more videos this week to have up as soon as possible. All right. So I will see you guys. Yeah, just a short one today. I got to get the car loaded up and out to the gig. See you guys later.